Welcome back to the S.H.A.R.E podcast, where we talk about sex, relationships, and culture. This is our real talk segment.
Yeah.
Yeah. This is a segment where we kind of have a real talk, answer questions from the community about the subject that we are discussing. If you want to know the subject we're discussing, we're talking about how to make an unfiltered resolution. That was the title of our last podcast. And if you missed it, go check it out because it's pretty cool. It's pretty cool.
Spotify, YouTube, all over the place.
The apples. I think we might be on the apples. Lucy, are we on the apples?
We're on the apples.
We are on the apples. Fantastic. That means iTunes.
Apple Music.
Apple Music. Yeah, that. So in our Real Talk segment, again, we're just kind of riff and talk about some questions that we get from our community, from teenagers, from parents, from people who write us in to like Google things and emails about questions.
All the places.
All of the places. So one of the things that came up about this topic of New Year's resolutions, how do you live an unfiltered life, body image, how to look at yourself in a healthy way, and how to make New Year's resolutions that are more geared towards what just kind of makes you happy and makes you feel good, as opposed to trying to keep up with the Joneses or the Kardashians. If you want to check out what I mean by that, please go listen again to our last podcast. It was amazing. And so, yeah, having kind of this idea of what does it mean to be unfiltered. But before we even get into that kind of came up in a classroom setting, was somebody asked, well, what filter are you using? And it was like within the context of, they were kind of just joking back and forth about like Snapchat. We were talking about TikTok, and it was funny at the time because it was a good joke. But then we started talking about, okay, well, what filters are we using? Mm-hmm. What are the things that we want people to see, because we're either too afraid to show our authentic selves, or because we think like if I use this filter, I'll be more accepted by society. So that's like our first question. What filter are we using? What filters do you think we're using, like personally as a society, just in general? Cass, what do you think?
Well, I think one, especially when it comes to kids, teenagers, young adults, is filters on social media. Mm-hmm. And like quite literally like the filters on Snapchat, the filters on Instagram, the filters when you go in and edit your photos on whatever app there is. And some of those just like add effects. Some of those alter the way you look. Some of those you can edit out defects in your pictures, whatever it may be. So I'd say that's a big one. But also just like in terms of the way that we talk about our lives. You know, we often like to just say like, I'm good, everything's okay. You know, when you ask how Christmas was, oh, everything was great, had a great time with the family. You know, we all caught up and everything. It was wonderful. When in reality, maybe it didn't go so smoothly. Right. Maybe there was some hurtful comments, maybe hurt feelings, different things. So I think those are kind of two of the big ones. What other ones kind of can you think of?
Within that conversation that we had with the students, one of the things that came up was I'm always filtering what I say, not just what I look like. Like I have to filter what I say, because depending upon like how I say or how I have to be, certainly like either in one camp of political correctness or in another camp of political correctness. Yeah. Not necessarily because I agree, but because that's the popular stance to take.
And sometimes filtering what you say isn't a bad thing.
No.
Sometimes it's good to be aware of what you're saying and how you're saying it. But yeah, I definitely also see that point of like, oh, like we're going to go see so-and-so, so you can't say this, or this, or like, oh, you know, like I'm with these people, so I can't say how I actually feel about whatever topic it may be. So it can kind of go both ways. We're like, there can be benefits to filtering, but it can also cause a lot of shame, overthinking, and negative outcomes.
Yeah, and 100%. And this person in particular was like, I have to filter what I say, not just because, you know, I want people to perceive me a certain way, but because I can't be my authentic self. For example, I can't actually say that I'm going through a hard time. Mm-hmm. I can't actually say that, like, you know what, today's been a really hard day. I always have to be bubbly. I always have to put on a face. I always have to be positive. Because if I actually let people see that I'm going through a hard time, they'll either like kind of brush it off. They won't understand because they're not willing to listen, or they'll try to like give me a pep talk when I don't really need a pep talk. I just need to be heard.
Yeah.
And so there's like this idea of like, I have to filter what I say because I have to put out this persona that like everything is awesome. Yep.
Yeah.
Don't.
Nope.
Don't. I know you guys are singing the song. Stop it. But yeah, like sometimes not everything isn't awesome.
Yeah.
And so that kind of leads into our second question. What would it look like if we were actually unfiltered?
What?
I know.
That's a thing?
What if we got rid of all filters? What if we actually just lived our authentic selves? What do you think that would look like?
I think it can open up some really deep and interesting conversations. And kind of realize like, oh, hey, like I'm not the only one who feels like this.
Yeah.
I'm not the only one who struggles with mental health or struggles with eating or who fights with my family all the time or like so many different things, right? That we kind of keep all inside and like, oh, like this is only happening to me because no one's talking about it. So I must just be like alone in Timbuktu and everyone else is in La La Land fairy tale. So yeah, I think it can be a really healthy thing and a really affirming thing just to realize like I'm not alone in what I'm feeling. And even if someone doesn't necessarily go through the same thing, they can maybe relate to what I'm going through because of something that they're going through that maybe I don't know about because we're always putting up these barriers and filters.
Yeah, 100%. Like maybe I can relate to, you know, another person, and maybe another person will actually be able to relate to me because we're being authentic. I'm seeing this swing specifically when it comes to like mental health within men, for example, where like there's starting to be more of a spotlight on the fact of like, you know, specifically men are allowed to have feelings. That men are allowed to be vulnerable, that we're actually allowed to express ourselves, that like we can, there's this whole idea of like, if your feelings don't matter, like your feelings don't really care because you're a guy. If you express vulnerability, like that's seen as weakness. And we're starting to see this slow shift that I'm actually really glad about, where that's kind of becoming more highlighted.
Yeah.
Because there is, you know, and it's not just for men, but you know, obviously for women, but for women too. But like, there's this idea of like actually being vulnerable, though. Despite the fact that it might feel awkward, that it might feel like super scary.
Yeah.
The risk of understanding that you can be vulnerable, you can open up, and somebody else can also then resonate with that and be like, yeah, I'm going through that too. I totally understand. Is something that's so needed and necessary. And I'm glad to see these conversations starting to happen. Because it just breaks down like the whole idea of like there's us and then there's them.
Yeah.
It's like no. We're all us.
Yeah.
We're all in the same thing together.
I kind of feel like too, like the last episode we kind of talked a lot about like social media and filters and how it can kind of be bad when we put on this like fake image. But I wanted to say too, like one of the really cool things about the internet and some social media platforms is being able to kind of find groups of people who get what you're going through. For example, like if you have like an illness, right? Like you might be able to find a group of other people with that illness who will get what you're saying on a deeper level and kind of understand the same thing you're going through. Or like groups like AA, Alcoholics Anonymous, or Al-Anon for like caregivers or family members of someone who's struggling with alcoholism, where you can find people who actually kind of get the same thing as what you're going through, not just like a general understanding, can also be really helpful and really freeing for a lot of people. Again, right, to hear like someone else has gone through something very similar to what I've gone through. I remember one time I was reading something, I think, in a book about someone who was diagnosed with ulcerative colitis around the age of 20, which is around the same age when I was diagnosed with ulcerative colitis. And something that she like said in her book was literally word for word something that I had remembered saying to one of my friends after I got diagnosed. And I just sat there and I was like, other people literally felt the same thing that I feel, that I didn't know how to put into words, but like they understand. And it was just really like calming to realize, okay, you know what, like I'm not crazy. This isn't all in my head. This is a normal thing to react to this situation that people don't know how to react to, because no one else I know has colitis. So they can understand like certain things to extents, but then to find someone who actually like understood colitis, I was like, wow, this is really cool and unexpected and like a new feeling.
And it's authentic.
Yeah.
Right? Like I've experienced the same things where, you know, I've talked to other people who struggle with disabilities, and specifically like mobile disabilities, and understanding like the phrase of like feeling like a prisoner within your own body, because you want to do things, but you physically can't do things because your body prevents you from doing those things. It was just so freeing to feel a resonance and an understanding of, and that there's a group of peers that I have who are going through the same thing and can understand and, you know, speak to that same experience.
Yeah.
And it's so interesting because it's the flip side of these kind of online filters that we're talking about, where like the filter itself, like if I put up my phone and put on the filter, it'll do the same thing to my face that'll do to your face. And it kind of gives us like almost like whitewash over everybody, like making everybody kind of look the same in some ways, because it'll shape your cheekbones in a certain way, or it'll put like certain makeup on you, or your eyebrows. It'll like change your hair color and like make you kind of look in this interesting, like similar pattern, which is like the unrealistic standard of like beauty or body image that we're like supposed to achieve. Like if you look like this filter, then you know you've won. Like that's the standard. Yeah. And what's really interesting about that is like it makes everybody look the same.
Yeah.
And the truth is everybody isn't the same. We are all individual. We all have like, I think something you said in the last podcast was amazing about talking about like a different cactuses and body shapes and how those should be appreciated. And what's really amazing about these groups that you're talking about is that you can still keep all of your intrinsic worth and individuality that you have, while at the same time resonating with an experience that somebody else has, without compromising, having to be a cookie cutter version of what like society says you have to look like. You have to have abs, or you have to be this weight, or you have to, you know, be that slim, thick kind of body type. It's like, no. You can actually be who you are and still have deep connection with other people who are going through the same thing.
Yeah. Kind of some reframing going on here.
Just a little bit. Like. It's almost like a deconstruction of what we're talking about. Like, ooh. Yeah. Yeah.
Jinx.
Oh, crap. I owe you a soda, apparently.
Okay.
At least that's
maybe a coffee?
We'll talk.
Anyways.
So in the heart of that, when we look at living this, like if we were to make a resolution of being unfiltered, just accepting sort of who we are authentically, and shifting into a healthier mindset. Not that resolutions are bad, but unfiltered resolutions.
Reframing what the resolution is.
Correct. We can look at things like, so for example, instead of like, I'm going to go on this diet, I'm going to go on the fasting diet, or I'm going to go on the cabbage soup diet. By the way, don't go on the cabbage soup diet.
I didn't even know that was a thing.
It's so bad. It's one I tried when I was younger. It was gross.
It sounds like not a good time.
You're only allowed to eat cabbage soup. It's not fun. It's don't do that one. So instead of going on these crazy fad diets, reshaping that to like, I'm going to, instead of go on this diet, I'm going to reconsider how I look at food.
Yeah.
I'm going to look at food as something to fuel me. And all food, again, like not just, I'm not just going to eat this type of food, like this specific like diet, but like I'm going to look at all food as fuel and enjoy all food, but in moderation.
Well, and like a big thing too, there's been a push lately in schools and workplaces talking about SMART goals. And so when you're making a goal or a resolution, a lot of the times we kind of tend to be like, I'm going to stop eating ice cream, or I'm going to stop watching porn, or I'm going to stop. Like, it's always about stopping a behavior.
Yeah.
But okay, so you stop a behavior, but then what do? You need to replace it with something. So instead of making your goal or your resolution, I'm going to stop doing this, if we can frame it a bit more positively and say, I'm going to start going for a 5-minute walk every day, or I'm going to start my day by reading a positive affirmation instead of going on my phone. Like there's so many like different things you can do, but just the subtle reframing or rewording of these goals and resolutions can make a huge difference in like how you view it. Does it seem like a chore, or does it seem like something that, hey, like I actually want to do? And in terms of actually following through with it, because it's a lot easier to focus on doing something small than stopping a behavior completely.
Yeah, 100%. I was talking to my best friend, Andre, who's also a bodybuilder, and not a bodybuilder. He's a professional trainer. That's what it is. Personal trainer.
Yes.
My mind is all over the place. I went from bodybuilder to professional trainer to personal trainer.
We got there eventually.
We got there. It was a smorgasbord of chaos in my brain.
That's okay.
That's what happens. This is why we share. He's a personal trainer, and he said just do one small thing, exactly what you're talking about. And like for me, he was like I'm going to drink 24 ounces of water when I wake up in the morning, or I'm going to drink 8 ounces of water when I wake up in the morning.
We're in Canada. We don't talk in ounces.
We don't talk. We're in Canada.
We are. I mean, maybe some people talk in ounces, but I don't speak ounces.
What do you guys use?
Cups.
Milliliters?
Liters.
Liters?
Or cups. You don't generally drink a milliliter of water?
I'm going to drink 1 milliliter of water. No, so reframing it for our Canadian people.
I'm going to drink a cup of water.
I'm going to drink a cup of water when I wake up. One thing for me is like I have decided I am going to be more active. So like when I wake up in the morning, I drink a cup of water and I do 20 push-ups. That's it. Just 20 push-ups just to get my body moving.
Yeah.
And that, he said, if you just continue that consistent thing of like whatever it is, whatever is good for you, whatever feels good for your body, just keeping that consistency, you will see such a tremendous change. And then if you want to add things later on top of that, great. But exactly what you said, start small. And when we're talking about activity, another resolution that people will say is like, I'm going to start this intense workout routine, or like I'm
go to the gym 7 days a week.
Go to the gym like that. I love that guy on TikTok. Go to the gym. Go to the gym.
I don't think I saw that one.
Oh, he's hilarious. He's like this big ripped dude. He looks like a Viking, and he's yelling at people. For comedic measures, I think it's funny. But you don't have to go to the gym. Instead of being like, I'm going to go to the gym, or I'm going to, lose 100 pounds, or I'm going to get abs. Instead of saying things like that as a resolution, one of the things that we can flip that on its head is saying something like, I'm going to discover the fun in activity. Mm-hmm. So I'm going to find something that I find fun, and I'm just going to do that thing that's active, but also fun for me.
Yeah.
So like for me, I'm currently looking into joining a boxing gym because I think that would be fun, and it's an active activity.
Yeah.
I know someone.
It could be fun.
Yeah. I know another friend of mine who's like, I'm going to pick up dance because I like to dance, and it's an active activity. So whatever it is, finding the fun in the activity is a great way to reframe that, because it's healthier.
Yeah.
And you're not setting this unachievable goal. It's just like, I'm gonna find fun and activity again.
You have another one written here that I really like.
What's that?
Instead of saying like, oh, I'm going to fit into that old pair of pants or lose X amount of weight, just even being neutral with your body. If you can't say something positive about your body, just finding something neutral to say like, I have a body, or find something that your body can do for you. Like, I woke up this morning. I can move my arm, whatever it may be. It doesn't have to be something positive. If you're not there yet, that's okay. But instead of saying that you have to change your body and form it into something that it isn't, accept your body for where it is now, and thank your body for what it can do for you. Because our bodies can all do things. They're keeping us alive. They're working very hard all the time.
That's true.
And sometimes we're very mean to them when they're really trying their best.
They're trying their best.
Gold star.
Gold star for bodies. Your body's trying its best.
Woo!
Woo woo. So why are all of these relevant? Why do we want to try to reshape and reframe kind of how we think about resolutions, how we want to kind of move into a place of living. If we're trying to make the resolution of being more unfiltered, an unfiltered resolution, why are these important? What do you think?
Well, I think one of the things we actually talked about in a previous podcast is shame and removing the sense of shame. And a lot of kind of the examples we gave of, you know, like go on a diet, fit into an old pair of pants, induces feelings of shame subconsciously, right? Because I'm doing all of these things wrong, so I need to change them because this is bad.
Yeah.
So instead of kind of have that idea, whether or not you realize that it's creating shame or guilt, that subconsciously is the message you're sending yourself, or maybe other people are sending, or is being reinforced. So changing that narrative will clear up a lot of anxiety generally in your head. Just a lot of that doubt, overthinking when it comes to those things, and just creating a more happy place for you to be, I think, is a big thing.
Yeah. Being in a happy place is a good idea.
Yeah. Sunshine.
And this, all of these ideas, why we talk about these things because our goal, the vision of our entire program is that, you know, the vision of the S.H.A.R.E program is that every student in Ontario would understand the intrinsic self-worth and the value of themselves and of others. And that's why we do what we do, because you are a person. Just because you're a person, you are worthy of respect. You have value. Your thoughts and your feelings matter. And so as a tool that we want to give parents and educators, the best thing that we can do for our young people especially is build their self-esteem, build their self-worth.
I heard a quote one time. I don't remember it exactly, but it was something along the lines of, we're all doing the best with the skills that we have and we can do better. It was like, right now, we're all doing the best we can with our past, what we've been taught, things, you know, that we tell ourselves, but there's always room to grow. But let's make that a positive thing and not a negative thing where we're putting ourselves or each other's down in order to achieve that growth.
100%. And so as an encouragement, if you're listening to this podcast, if you are a parent or an educator, we just want to give you tools, give you these kinds of reframing ideas so that you can create safe places for your young people, for students, for teenagers that you're working with, to help build that sense of esteem. Because the truth is, it's being attacked all the time. Like not even with teenagers, but like across the board. Like people are, you know, your self-esteem, your self-worth is always under attack by one thing or another. And so doing the opposite, having a conversation where you can speak positivity, where you can speak understanding, where you can speak like, hey, I understand where you're at because like I've been there myself and things are kind of, you know, I can resonate because I'm going through some stuff myself. It's not always the best. Sometimes life is difficult, and not trying to just push those moments aside or move past them too quickly, but like sitting and validating other people within that place is so important. And it provides a safe place so that when also on the flip side, the celebrations come, there'll be more, young people will be more keen to come and share those as well.
Well, and even like we talked about a bit in the last episode, the way that we talk about our bodies and our goals and different things happening in our lives, kids or young people, teenagers, or just other people around you will see that and feed off of that. So if we can like in my own life, if I can reframe my goals instead of saying like, I need to lose weight this year, just say, I want to be healthy and do things that are going to make me feel healthier. And my weight doesn't need to be a factor in that. People around me who are influenced by things that I'm saying or like see the way that I'm living will notice that, right? Or instead of me saying, oh, I need to lose weight and constantly talking about losing weight, talking about, I just want to be healthy this year and figure out what that looks like for me is a very different conversation.
Yeah. 100%. Just being healthy for yourself is great. And all bodies are sacred. All people are sacred. And if anything, the thing that we want people to take away from this podcast and this segment is that it's okay, despite it being hard sometimes, to live an unfiltered life, to live your most authentic self. And we want to encourage people to live their most authentic selves.
It's okay to have a bad day.
It's okay to have a bad day. It's okay to be different. It's okay to not always agree. It's
it's okay to have a good day.
Right?
Wait, like a lot of the time.
Hold on a second.
Sorry.
We can have good days.
We can have good days.
Nice.
Not everything has to be sad and crummy all the time.
That's amazing.
Or you can have a day where you have both. There might be good and bad in a day.
Yeah. Those roller coaster days, they're fun.
You got options.
You have options. Well, we hope you guys have had a good time with us on this podcast. We are really excited about this new year. We have a lot of amazing guests lined up. Our next podcast in February, we're going to be talking about a very, very serious topic that's very important to have specifically here in Hamilton. We're going to have a guest on the show. We're going to be talking about sex trafficking. And the dangers and how we can be more aware of specific trafficking that's happening here within our own city and within Ontario as a whole. So make sure you guys tune into that. It's going to be a very important podcast. We're really looking forward to that with our guest and bringing some light into that situation.
Yeah.
And also ways that we can help and get involved in this really big issue. So tune in next time. Don't forget to like, subscribe. And share. Yeah. Thank you guys for tuning in. This is the S.H.A.R.E podcast. And don't forget
to share.
To share.